All right. Let's start a little therapy session here. Let's talk about this Chiefs game because that
I
was brutal.
I need some therapy. I'm feeling I haven't recovered still. I've just been trying to avoid thinking about it because it just makes me sad every time I think about it. Not only did we, get beat down pretty good, but like it just took a physical toll on our team, losing Ayuk for the year, Debo being hospitalized and whatever weird stuff's going on there. It's like, man, that's one of those losses where I feel like it could put you back a little bit. It could kind of derail your season a little bit. So I'm pretty nervous if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I was actually going to pull up a screen here. I could share some of the injury stuff, but oh man, the uh, the injuries. You're right. It's one thing to lose, but they got like their ass kicked. It
Yep.
was like uh, kind of embarrassing.
Spags is Kyle's daddy. There's no other way to put it. He just owns him, just completely owns him. It doesn't matter if it was Jimmy G, if it was Brock Purdy, if they're slinging down the field, if they're dinking and dunking. They can't do nothing on Spags.
No, he's Kyle's daddy. It's him and Andy Reid have just they're big brother Kyle Shanahan every time they play.
Yep.
Um, yeah, during the game I was texting you guys like, what is the deal with Debo? Is it a tummy ache? Does he have a cold? It has to be something more than that. And turns out he's been hospitalized with pneumonia, fluid in his lungs.
Yeah, I
That's
saw that.
crazy.
That's crazy. That's serious.
I had no idea about Kittle, but yeah. No, he
And then
tried to
yeah,
go. He Debo tried to go. He was in for a few
I
plays,
saw
and
him.
I
Yeah.
remember them
Saw him
showing him
run
with like
out.
a breathing thing like on his face on the sideline. So
When it showed him, he looked like he was not having a good time.
yeah.
Like he
yeah,
looked like the face of someone that was sick or had something wrong.
yeah. Kyle said after the game that Debo was having a hard time breathing, and that's why they ended up just telling him to take the pads off and watch because and now it makes sense with pneumonia, like lungs full of water. That's crazy. And then of course we already know about this one.
Is pneumonia what's his face had? Sam Darnold back when he was on the Jets and he was out for like 4 weeks when he was sick. I think it was pneumonia. Do you guys remember that? When Sam Darnold was on
Vaguely,
the Jets?
vaguely, it might have been pneumonia. Did you have pneumonia, Chasen, as a kid?
I either had pmonia or mono. I can't
See,
remember which one it
I
was
thought Sam
anymore.
Darnold had mono actually. I didn't think it was pneumonia. I thought it was mono. Mono
He had
lingers. I mean pneumonia can too, but mono is like
Yeah,
known for taking like weeks and weeks and sometimes months to really recover from.
yeah. So, oh boy, I mean, where do you guys even want to start? I mean, what do you guys? Why was that game not? I mean, I'm not surprised that the Niners lost that game. I am surprised, even though I picked them to win, kind of being optimistic. But what surprised me was just how non-competitive it was, and how bad Purdy was. And yeah, I mean, what do you guys think it was? Why was Purdy so bad? Was it the game plan? Was Purdy just off? Is it the Chiefs defense? Like, why was that game just not even remotely competitive?
Steven, I'll let you go.
I got a lot of thoughts. I don't know where to start with. But like you guys have both made it pretty clear that you blame Shanahan, and I'm not saying he's without blame. I think, like you talk about putting a game plan together, can't beat them. I think he put a game plan together to beat them in the Super Bowl, and the players didn't execute it all the way. I mean, I feel like that game was there for the taking. So I feel like he has proven that he can do it, and the players have got to come through. And I feel like just like always, and maybe it's because I'm a biased Niners fan, but just like always, they shoot themselves in the foot. And I do want to give the Chiefs a lot of credit because they controlled the game. They look like the better team. I think I texted you guys and said at some point they're just better. Like you can just see it that they're the better team, right? But I'm sure, like when we did our last episode, we were talking about what to expect, and I was talking about the offenses, right? Because I was kind of thinking that the Niners defense hasn't looked as good this year as past years, and I guess I just thought that the Niners offense would be motivated enough to overcome the Chiefs defense. I know the Chiefs defense is really good. Obviously, I couldn't have been more wrong because like that was the opposite of an offensive game. Like even though the Chiefs put up 28 points, it was kind of like I don't even feel like their offense deserved to have 28 points in that game. It's because of the all the turnovers and Niners mistakes that they had as big of a number as they did. So for
Yeah.
yesterday, I'm sure that losing Debo, and basically not having him from the beginning of the game had a big effect on it. I'm sure
Yeah.
that Ayuk was in for about a half, right? And it wasn't like he was super effective for that half, but I'm sure that the injuries are part of it. Not that that's an excuse, but that's part of it. So if you get taken out of your game plan with, especially Debo, I feel like he's so like they're so reliant on him with McCaffrey out for even decoy stuff, So, anyways, I feel like it probably threw a big wrench in their plans, and we have seen time and again, whether it's Kyle, whether it's the players, it's probably a mixture of both. They don't adapt well. I mean, the Niners usually come out on fire in a lot of games, and they score early, and when they're going through their scripted plays, their offense looks great, and then the defense makes adjustments on the other team. And then what have we seen already this season? A couple games where they're up, slowly get whittled away, and they end up losing. And that's been like the hallmark, of the Shanahan era, right? Or Shanahan as a coach. That's like the major criticism against him. And so, yeah, that's on Kyle as the coach. He's got to figure out a way to overcome that. He knows his players. He knows who he's dealing with, but it's also on the players. I mean, Brock, like you said, just bad decisions. Like there was opportunities there yesterday. I mean, I think another thing I texted you guys was like, let's keep finding George. And maybe Kyle wasn't calling the plays for him, but I doubt that. I would think that Brock was just, you know, maybe
Well,
not
Kyle
seeing what was
himself
open.
says he doesn't call plays for specific players. He
Right.
just kind of calls a play, and it's up to Brock to read it and find the right guy.
Well, anyways, George was the only one who seemed to be effective. And we talked about that even before the game, right? Like we expected he was going to win his matchup. And it was like, when you went to him, it's pretty good. Why didn't you just feature him more? But, anyways, I talked a lot. I feel like there's a lot of things in there that contributed to yesterday. But honestly, well, my parting thought, I really like Brock Purdy. I'm really glad he's our quarterback. I'm not like, going to toss him aside after a bad game. But as of now, so far, he has proven to me that he is not clutch because every opportunity he's
Wow.
had to try to like bring him back or whatever, it doesn't happen. Like I know it didn't happen last year. It didn't happen earlier this year when he had opportunities with the Rams and Cardinals game. And I'm hoping that it's because he's still young and trying to figure it out. So I'm not saying he can't become more clutch. We got to keep that in mind. But as of now, he is not clutch. If he was clutch, they would already have a Super Bowl ring because it's because of
Yeah,
him not making the clutch plays that they don't. So,
It
yeah.
sounds like. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was gonna say because I'm thinking of when you say he's not clutch, he doesn't have like the fourth quarter comebacks. He was pretty clutch in the Super Bowl. He did get them down the field in overtime and get points on the board, field goal, not a touchdown. I think to the Cleveland Browns game last year, he played bad in that game, but then he did get them down the field for the 41-yard kick that Moody missed. That would have been a game-winning drive. But he's had plenty of opportunities to get the Niners down the field and score for wins, and for whatever reason, he and the offense stall out. The recent example would be the Cardinal game
yep.
when he had Kittle open and he got smoked and the ball flew up in the air and it was an interception. And it's easy to say, well, he got hit and it wasn't his fault. But if you listen to the call, like Brady, who knows a thing or two about playing quarterback, he was saying like you got to know that it's coming hot. You got to know to get rid of the ball quicker.
Yep.
And Brock even said he was looking downfield trying to find Ayuk, and he had Kittle wide open underneath. Like just take what they're giving you, and he hasn't recognized that. So I do agree. He hasn't proved to be that clutch, drive you down the field and win the game type of quarterback. He has proven that he can pile on you early and keep piling it on you throughout the game, and you have no chance of coming back. But he hasn't quite proven that Mahomes was bad on Sunday. Like he
Yeah.
made the right plays at the right time, and they won.
Yep.
Brock hasn't quite figured out how to do that yet.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds like we might need to do that list again. Sounds like there's some more quarterbacks you guys are going to want to trade now after that Chiefs game.
Not really, because
Really,
it's just one aspect of his game. I'm just saying that I wonder if that's part of why people get frustrated with him too, or that he still has all the hate because he has opportunities. I mean, I didn't like look anything up before, but from memory, I'm pretty sure last year's loss against the Vikings, he had multiple opportunities and did nothing with them. Even the Super Bowl, like you said, Ryan, he was clutch to a certain degree, but key plays, it's like you throw it over here instead of over there. Like you just make that clutch play and you're champion, you know? And you just,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's been, well, honestly, I feel like our text chain, I've seen multiple times where Ryan will text, all right, Brock, time to go do this, or, get us down there and do it. And I feel like
You're
it
the
never
man.
works out. It never works
yeah.
out. It's just it's so frustrating.
How much of that do you think is Brock not quite being that clutch quarterback yet? Because we have talked about some of the throws that he's missed, but sometimes I've watched people break down, like really get into the weeds on the film and stuff, and they're looking at the plays. Like Kyle, when it comes to drop back passing, that's not Kyle's strength, and I wonder how much Kyle plays a part in Brock's or Jimmy. Although Jimmy actually was pretty good at coming from behind, he had a little bit of a clutch gene in him from time to time. So I wonder how much of it is Kyle and how much of it is Brock. Because I trust Brock. He seems like an awesome quarterback, like you said, Steven. I'm happy to have him as my guy to root for. But something's lacking when the game's on the line. He's a tick late or he's a tick inaccurate. Something just seems to fall apart. And I don't know if it's him getting in his head, trying to do a little too much, if it's Kyle just not dialing up the right plays at the right time, or probably some combination of both. I'm not sure.
The reason why I came out of the game so frustrated with the coaching staff is because a big part of it is like the penalties. And I know that can come down to like player execution, but it's like the Chiefs just seem like they're better coached. They don't commit the penalties. They're not putting themselves behind the eight ball. They always have like a good plan, a great plan, actually. They seem to always dropping guys in the right spots. Offensively, I guess maybe their game plan wasn't the best, or honestly, with the talent they had available, maybe it was the best game plan they could have come up with. But it just, that game, it screamed out that we were being out coached on special teams, on
Because they
offense.
were.
Defense, they did all right. They did all right. They did their best against Mahomes and Andy Reid off a bye week. They did pretty damn good, actually. But those two other areas, we just got out coached. And I got so frustrated with the penalties. I don't know who else to blame other than the head coach. When you have 10 days off, you have all this time to prepare, put a game plan together. I realize Debo's out. That's part of the game plan. Got to maneuver. Ricky Pearsall's out there now. We got some rookies out there. Jacob Cowing. But it's just like, damn, the penalties were so frustrating. And then obviously the turnovers weren't great, and Brock is definitely to blame for a chunk of it. But my biggest takeaway was just we got out coached. We had a chance to win despite some of our shortcomings in that game, but we just flat out got out coached. That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, Kyle. I don't think Kyle runs like a tight ship, like a Belichick or like an Andy Reid. It's
No,
like
Trent
his
Williams
teams
gets to
play
do whatever he
loose.
wants. If Trent Williams decides he wants to punch someone that day, Kyle's just, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Trent's been ejected a couple times now, just since he's been a Niner at the end of games that they're losing, and he's getting frustrated. And Kyle seems to be like, well, Trent's a Hall of Famer. You can do what you want because it's not like. Do you really think Kyle's lecturing Trent in
No.
the locker room? Like, hey, you got to set an example. If he was, Trent wouldn't be doing that. And Debo's coming to camp every other year in shape and out of shape. There's streaks of games every year where the Niners are getting 8, 9, 10 penalties a game. Kyle just he doesn't seem like he really runs that tight of a ship sometimes. Brandon
Yeah.
Ayuk's coming to practice with the wrong colored shorts. Like, do you think any of that would happen to Bill Belichick on a Bill Belichick coach team? Special teams is awful. Really, his entire
Terrible.
tenure, 7 years, it's been up and down bad. But they've been the bottom third probably the entire time. And this season, it's like every week, is it going to be a punt return? Is it going to be a kick return? Like, where's the big play going to happen? Is something going to get blocked? Is To their credit, actually, they did stop that fake punt. That was the first good
I was
special teams
shocked.
play I'd seen all season. But like Kyle, he doesn't care. He's just like, don't lose the game, special teams, and we'll figure it out on offense or defense. But like, you've been doing that for 7 years. Your special teams has been awful for 7 years. Do something else. But he just, it seems like for Kyle, it's always my way or the highway, and his way
Yeah.
is good, wins games, goes to the playoffs, but you're not going to win a championship like that. Andy Reid, to his credit, he evolved, he adapted. He's running the ball better than Kyle Shanahan is right now, and Kyle's supposed to be the run game guru, and he's got 3 Super Bowls, and he's got an awesome defensive coordinator, and awesome special teams. Like, Kyle's just kind of he's super stubborn. I would just say Kyle is really stubborn, and he's just going to do his way because he knows his way works because he saw his dad win Super Bowls doing their way. But something like Kyle, just he's lacking something. It's just he doesn't run that tight ship. It's too loose and too fast.
I wonder how much of it is like the Andy Reid comparison because I think the same thing. I feel like he's the new age Andy Reid, and I'm hoping that eventually he'll have that
Yeah.
success without having to leave and do
Who's
it
someone
elsewhere.
else?
Yeah,
I've thought that exact same thing. I'm like, damn, if we fire Kyle, he's gonna go find his Mahomes and
he
they're
is.
gonna
Yeah,
rip off a bunch of Super Bowls.
but you just said it, Chase. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I wonder how much of it is the quarterback because Andy Reid had damn good quarterbacks. I mean, Donovan McNabb was
Yeah, he
like
did.
an MVP candidate in his prime for like multiple years, and so it wasn't until he got the generational, stud Mahomes that he got his 3 Super Bowls. And like I, the other person that I think about lovingly that I wish Kyle was like and that I want to compare him to is Bill Walsh because he's innovative and an offensive mind and all that. I wonder how much Bill Walsh, like it's always hard to separate quarterback and coach, right? Like if he didn't have Joe, who knows? It might not have worked as well. So can Brock be that guy? I think he still can be. I'm not saying, oh yes, he's definitely will be. I'm saying I think he still can be and grow into that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that like credit that you want to give other guys, you know, it's always a combination. And I don't know that Kyle has had his guy, and it's so frustrating to think that like I feel
I
like
don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say if I feel like if he had Brock like at this level, Brock for the first Super Bowl, Niners would have won.
Yeah.
And if and
Yeah.
and if he had, I don't know, just a little bit more mature Brock for the second one, Niners would have won. But they've just had the bad luck because I think Brock is better than Jimmy. I think he's proven that, and
Oh yeah.
so I feel like the current version of Brock was the superior version of a quarterback than 2019 Jimmy. But anyways, what were you going to say, Ryan?
Sure.
Well, you were saying that Kyle hasn't really found his guy yet, but well, to go back a little bit, you were talking about Bill Walsh. Bill found Joe, drafted him in the third round. Joe was great. And even when Joe was great, he still looked out and saw Steve Young and was like, that guy's really good too. I want to go get him.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle has, like, he tried to go get his guy. And that was allegedly Trey Lance. That didn't work out. He called, or I guess Bill called the Niners and asked if they wanted Jimmy, and Jimmy kind of fell in their lap. But Kyle's guy at that time was Kirk,
Kirk, right?
and we've seen Kirk's career. So like,
Yep.
if Kyle gets Kirk, is he a Super Bowl champion? To
Well,
me, he's probably doing
Maybe.
what they're doing now,
if you
winning playoff games, maybe. But that's probably it.
you know that I'm not a Kirk fan. I made that clear on our last episode. But I also believe that if you swapped Kirk Cousins for Jimmy G, they already have at least one Super Bowl and maybe more. And now I know it's not that simple,
I
but
think so too.
if you'd put 2019 Kirk Cousins as quarterback of the Niners instead of Jimmy G, they win that game.
I think at the minimum, you think of that pass to Emmanuel Sanders. I think Kirk hits that pass.
But anyways, it doesn't. I mean, all I was trying to say, Ryan, is I'm not saying he didn't have his guy, like he hasn't got to pick him. That's not what I meant. I meant he may not have found his guy that he can um, ride to the success or rely on or whatever you want to call it. You know, like it's. I mean, Mike Shanahan, his dad, had John Elway. He was an aged John Elway, but both of his Super Bowls, he had John Elway, who probably knew every play in the damn book by that point of his career, and there's nothing he hadn't seen, against the defense. So it's yeah, I just feel like it's kind of unfortunate. Sir, I'm not trying to give Kyle a pass, by the way. I agree with what Jason said
No,
that
I like the debate.
they were out coached yesterday, and they seem to get out coached, and I think they were outplayed. At least the Chiefs defense definitely outplayed the Niners offense. Like they
Oh yeah,
controlled that game. That was the story of the game. I mean, yeah, special teams was bad, but special teams is always bad, like we kind of established. I actually feel like the Niners defense played pretty damn good. I mean, they struggled with the run, but to hold Mahomes to what they held him to, and I know that he didn't have all his top weapons, so maybe it's a different story if he has, a healthy Hollywood Brown and a healthy Rice running around out there. But still, they seem to have a good defensive plan to frustrate and limit what Mahomes was doing. They just couldn't do it all. They couldn't execute that plan and still stop the run.
yeah. I had a bad feeling about this game early when I think Mason had like an 8 yard run or something like that. Maybe it was a throw. I don't know, but they ended up in 2nd and 1. They ran the ball, got stuffed. 3rd and 1, ran the ball, got stuffed, and punted. I was like, oh boy,
That's
this
very
is going to be
defensive.
a long day. And it
Yep.
was.
Yep.
I don't know why we're like so conservative now. Like I feel like Kyle back in the day used to go for it on 4th downs a lot more, and I was like stoked about that he's like an aggressive play caller in that regard. And now he never seems to. And I feel like when you don't go for it on 4th downs, you're saying like I think my team is better, and I want to eliminate these like big swing plays, like if we get stopped or whatever. Because if it's just a flat playing field, we're gonna beat you. But I'm like, dude, it's the Chiefs. Like, I don't know if we're just flat out better than them. Like, we got to take a couple risks. We got to go for it on 4th down. I don't know why he doesn't really do that much anymore.
He seems to be conservative when you should be aggressive, and aggressive
Yeah.
when you should be conservative.
Yeah, I agree. It's
I
weird.
think I think a big part of that. I mean, I don't know how much you're comparing it to like going all the way back, or if you're just comparing it to last year, or the last couple of years. But I think a big part of that is no McCaffrey. Like I feel like he just gives them more room for error, and it's like a security blanket. Like, you know what? If worse comes to worse, we can just swing it out to him, or what? Like, or just his presence is going to open other things up on the defense. But I mean, who knows? I may be wrong about that, but I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if, assuming that McCaffrey comes back healthy, that we start to see him be a little more aggressive for the rest of this year.
Sure hope so.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate. This guy's an offensive genius, and he needs an all pro running back to make his entire operation work. Um, Sunday wasn't all bad. I mean, there were some positives. Let's try to wrap this game up on some positive notes. Malik Mustafa got mowed down by Patrick Mahomes for a touchdown, but besides that play, I thought he looked really good. He made some really
Yes, he
nice
did.
tackles. I actually think about the defense. I'm starting to think about Fred Warner missing that tackle on Mahomes. Maybe I'm not quite all ready to go positive. I need to go positive though. I mean, what were some of the positive things that came out of that game, if any? I
D
know.
Winters, I liked the way D Winters looked too. I feel like he made some splash plays in the run game. He's flying around, little reckless abandon, little Drake Greenlaw to him, where he wants to throw his body around, hit people hard, not just hit people, but make sure that they feel it. So yeah, D Winters, Malik Mustafa
If,
were the two highlights on defense for
if
me. It was cool seeing Ricky Pearsall, even though he didn't contribute a ton. I hope he can contribute some more moving forward, but it was obviously cool seeing Ricky. Didn't Jacob Cowing have an explosive play too? That was
Jacob
kind of
Cowing
cool.
had like a stutter and go, and the defense
Yeah.
stayed on the move, and
Ah, I
Purdy
wish
had
he
a
would have just
touchdown if
let
he'd
him.
thrown that a little farther.
There's been a few where if he just like throws, if it's like a perfect throw, they score. Same with the Kittle throw. I think at the end of the first half, I
Yeah,
feel like Kittle could have maybe scored on that one. I don't know. He's not as fast as he used to be, but still.
it's a bigger play
Um,
for sure.
yeah. So, yeah, I'd say the rookies were kind of the spotlight and what were fun to watch.
Like Kyle just refuses to play the young players. Like, and they're showing out now weekly. Like, let these guys play. Get some young, ferocious players out there, and let these guys go earn their name. And it's like you just want to keep running Devondre Campbell out there. But to their credit, they finally started getting winners involved. Although he did over pursue Mahomes and run out of bounds and let him scoot up the sideline.
Yeah.
did you
And
guys
then
did you see there was some talk about like Mahomes like doing like a little move or whatever to make it look like
Yes,
basically
100% he did.
yeah using
he was going
the
out of bounds, and
yeah
He
then
does that all
it,
the time. Or
and
he'll like fake a slide or whatever, kind of like, ooh,
so
and then he'll just
it
like
seems
keep
like a
running.
lose situation because it's like oh I know I can't hit him going out of bounds because I will get called for a 15-yard penalty, so I ease off and just kind of run by and then he makes me look like a fool. So I feel bad
Yeah.
for the young guy.
yeah. If you're a defensive coach, you just got to tell your players like get your hands on him and just ride him out of
That's
bounds.
true.
You don't have to hit him; just ride him out of bounds. Just grab him and say we're going out of bounds together. You don't have to put your shoulder into his chest. You don't have to hit him in the legs and chop him down. Just ride him out of bounds. Don't assume because Patrick Mahomes is gonna outsmart and outthink and he's gonna manipulate any way he can. And if he knows he can just throw a fake little pump fake and get you to leave your feet, that's all he needs.
Yep.
If he knows that you're gonna let up on the sideline, he's gonna take off. So you just got to ride him out of bounds and just make sure that he's out.
So
He kind of plays like a basketball player when he's on the run. Go ahead, Steven.
I have a bunch of positives, honestly, coming out of the game. I'm a positive guy in general, so I like to find them. But I thought Bosa was great. I mean, he should be great, but I thought he really impacted the game.
Yep.
If there's anyone left who doesn't think Lenore is our best corner, they're going to have a hard time convincing me because I feel like he just shows up every week and he's making the right plays. And I'm not just talking about because he got a pick or because he returned that kick. It's like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know he's not giving up a lot of yardage when he's getting targeted, and he's always making tackles in good position, affecting the pass. So I love Lenore. I mean, I texted you guys. It's like re-sign him right now. If they have to choose between Mooney and Lenore, I hope they pick Lenore, unless Mooney, really does something to change my mind in the second half of the year. But another positive was seeing Kittle do what we expected him to do, because I have kind of wondered, has he lost too much of a step or whatever? And I think yesterday showed me he could still, like, if you featured him, he could have huge numbers. He's just not going to be featured in this offense, but he's still got it. And I think that goes to like some of the points Ryan has made previously about using him in the red zone and stuff. Like he can win on the money downs if we need him to. Honestly, you guys might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I was overall pretty pleased with the O-line. I know they didn't open a whole lot of running lanes, but I feel like they did a pretty good job in pass protection. Like there was pressure. I don't want to make it sound like he was clean all day, but I expected it to be a lot worse than it was. And I didn't really feel like Chris Jones had that big of an impact for the first time in a Niners-Chiefs matchup. So I feel like the O-line was decent, and I wasn't even expecting them to be decent against the Chiefs. So I'll take that as a positive as well. But anyway, so there's a few positives for you. You agree or disagree?
Mm, I don't know. I do agree. Chris Jones was quiet, but
Yeah.
the Niners couldn't run the ball at all, and that was because the Niners' offensive line was getting their butts kicked in the run game.
I was thinking more
Purdy got
specifically
hit.
about pass protection when I'm giving them their props. Like, but yes, yeah, I don't. How
Yeah,
much is that is them, and how much of it is the Chiefs just being really good against the run?
it's probably both. In football, I feel like it's never like one thing or the other. It's never
Yeah,
one coach or one player. It's there's so many factors. It's got to be some combination of both. Uh,
It's interesting when you compare the Chiefs and the Niners off like offensive philosophy and what they invest into, because you can tell how much they invest in their offensive line, especially the interior, and it shows up. They're able to punch holes. They're able to keep Mahomes upright. And we have all these weapons that are great, and they're making a ton of money, and we can't pay an offensive lineman not named Trent Williams, and therefore we're not able to punch as many holes. And we kind of rely on our weapons. Kind of wish we would go more the Chiefs route and invest in some offensive linemen and rely on drafting some young weapons and so on and so forth. But that was another thing that kind of stood out to me was just like the way the Chiefs are built is kind of like opposite of the Niners offensively.
yeah, I've wondered this for a while. If Kyle's thing is running the ball, why don't you invest in offensive linemen like the Detroit Lions, who's
Yeah.
probably the best O line in the league, and they just bully people? That's what Kyle wants to do: shove the defensive line around and run the hell out of the ball. And you can go get Jacob Cowing in the fourth round to hit deep down the field. You don't have to pay $30 million for Ayuk, or draft Ayuk in the first round and get 5 years out of him and let someone else pay him, and just recycle the weapons like what the Chiefs are doing, and invest and pay the guys up front. The Niners, Kyle and John, they want to go get these big, awesome defensive linemen because they want to wreck the game. So wouldn't that mean you would want to get offensive linemen to not wreck the game for like your own team? But it seems like they just Kyle was a wide receiver. Maybe he just loves his weapons and he'll just figure it out with the cheap journeyman offensive lineman. But
it is
I don't
funny
like
that
it.
like if there's anything that the Shanahan system has proven, almost anyone can be a running back for you. And yet they still
Yeah.
every year use a draft pick on a running
Drafting
back.
them.
It's just
Like
it's so
McCaffrey's
funny.
awesome, but why did they give him all that money? And why, if I'm Jed York, why aren't if I'm gonna give him that money, it's like, okay, you want to pay Christian, keep him around, bring him in, let's just do a physical. Just
Yeah,
want to make sure he can like run and play football instead of giving him all this money. They mean like, oh, actually, he's not even gonna play this year.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The team building to me is frustrating because, like Jason said, the Chiefs, they know what they're doing. They're offensive linemen to run the ball and protect the most precious asset they have, Mahomes. Build a sweet defense, and Andy can scheme up the weapons to get them open. You don't need $30 and $25 million wide receivers. Have a sweet tight end like Travis Kelce or George
Yeah.
Kittle, because a premier tight end is $15 million, not $30 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
the
it
team
is funny.
building.
It's kind of like I was thinking as you were talking about it. It's the opposite of the Harbaugh era, where the O line
Yeah.
was incredible.
Dominant.
They had all these
Look what
studs.
he's doing with the Chargers right now.
Yeah,
They got rid of
and
all their wide receivers and they just drafted offensive linemen.
but I do remember being extremely frustrated, especially in the early years before they, got Anquan Bolden and Crabtree kind of developed a little more. Being so frustrated that like, why can't the Niners receivers ever get open? They can't. They have no
I remember that
separation.
too.
Like it was just like you you're giving your quarterback
Draft.
time and it doesn't matter. So I mean,
Yep.
there's obviously got to be a balance, but I do have faith that Kyle could scheme guys open. I mean, I think Kyle generally makes guys look better than they are. And we can talk about this on a future episode because I've been I've been trying to work on this theory, and it's not like it's my own. Of course, it's a lot of other people, but um, I think that that's part of why he doesn't do well in clutch moments, because they rely on him to elevate them with the scheme, and it's this thing that works in connection, and we don't just have dudes that you can just go line up and do street football, or we have very few of those guys that can just go win it on this play. But anyways, like I said, that can be a future conversation, because I have a lot more thoughts on that front. But I do think that you got to find a balance. I wish that we had a studlier O line. Don't get me wrong. I wish we were investing in that more. Um, maybe they finally are they hit on something with Pooney. Maybe they can keep replenishing there. I don't know, but
Is
yeah.
Trent Williams washed,
No,
or is
I
it
don't
just
think
not no
so.
training camp?
I think it's no training camp. I don't think he's going to be like top, but I still think he'll be like top 5, top 7 tackle for still another 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't know.
Still a valuable
But
asset, certainly.
Did,
But
Ryan, did you
yeah,
see you got your
I don't think
wish?
he's washed yet.
Did you see he went
which
he
one?
went head up with Chris Jones, at least on one play, because I remember they showed the replay of it.
Oh, that's too bad. I must have missed it.
It
Yeah, I
was
don't remember that either.
Yeah, it was 1-on-1 Trent Williams versus Chris Jones. The way that the Chiefs had him
Who
rush
won?
Trent, he handled him,
Good.
and
Put
they
him in his
Consider he
place.
set up for that matchup.
even Tom Brady said something about it. He's like, "Well, Trent Williams got the best of him on that round or whatever." So yeah, it was cool to see. I was like, "Oh, that should make Ryan happy." He was like, "Hey, put your best on best. Let's see what you got."
Yeah,
We had a great game plan for Chris Jones and still couldn't do jack diddly squat on offense. It's like, what the hell?
that just shows how good Spags is against Kyle.
Yeah, they just spawn DBs that can cover like
Yeah,
glue. It's crazy. And they were showing replays like after a pass play, they would show no one's open. There's guys just glued onto receivers. It's
yep,
like,
It's
do they
probably
know
because
where
they
damn
have an idea of
football?
what routes are coming, because it doesn't feel like Kyle's really tricking anybody anymore. It's you also think about how many teams around the league are running some offshoot of Shanahan's offense,
yep,
Yeah.
prepping for it almost every week. And
Yeah.
when Kyle comes around, this isn't like some unique scheme anymore.
yep.
Yep.
So
I'd
these
love
defenses are obviously used to it.
I'd love to see some more screens. I mean, and
Mm.
just trying to mix in some of that stuff to keep them honest, because I think that helps. It's like we were too much over the middle, too much short passing, like with Jimmy G and everything. And now it seems like it's a little bit too much on the drop back. Let's find the balance. Let's find a happy medium.
Yeah, it's up to Kyle to find that medium. We'll see if he can. Um, I don't want to get too much into the trade deadline because we still got to play the Cowboys and then we have the bye and then the trade deadline's here. But there was a report. Diana Rossini reported that Debo Samuel could be on the trade block. That was before he had pneumonia. He was laid up in the hospital, obviously. But how do you guys think this game affects what the Niners do at the trade deadline?
Well, do we want to give up our best receiver with our other best receiver now out for the season? It's like maybe if we could still go after a guy like Devontae Adams or something like that, but it's like, why are we gonna crush our weapons even more that just got depleted? So I feel like if Ayuk hadn't have gotten hurt, I would have been more willing to trade Debo because I don't think he's been that spectacular this season. He's kind of underwhelmed me, but I don't think we can do that now. Not with CMC uncertain, not with Ayuk out for the season. I know Jawan should hopefully be coming back, but I didn't see enough out of Pearsall to be like, yeah, let's go all in on the youth. Like we're all good at like, no, I don't feel too good about receiver right now.
Admittedly, I know nothing and have no inside information, but that felt to me like pure speculation and a little bit of lazy reporting just to create something to talk about, because like, oh, hey, the Niners have a plethora of receivers. and they just got Pearsall back. So if there could be anybody that's expendable, it would be somebody on the Niners. And it's kind of the same narrative that was dusted off around draft time. Niners use a first round pick on a receiver. Who are they getting rid of because of that? It's like, or they could keep them all and try to have depth, but nobody ever wants to talk about that. So it to me, I just felt like it was throwing something out there that could make sense because it's a numbers game. I definitely don't think he's going anywhere now with Ayuk hurt, and I really didn't think he was going anywhere before. But I mean, yeah, with Ayuk out, I mean, Kyle's going to have to rely on hopefully getting McCaffrey back and using the versatility of Debo and McCaffrey to be special. That's that's what we've got now.
Is it possible Devontae Adams plays for 3 different teams inside a month?
No.
Request another
Yeah,
trade.
if he was still a Raider with after Ayuk getting injured, I wonder if he would be looking at the Niners and if there would be something there.
But haven't
Yeah,
you guys
He might
heard
have went to New
he
York.
had the Niners on his list, his little list that he made. We were one of the teams. There's like 6 of them, I think.
haven't you heard though that like Mark Davis will never trade with the Niners?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And
yeah.
so Ryan, the other part of your question, because we focus so much on the receivers or whatever, I honestly think that yesterday's game makes the Niners more likely to be buyers, not sellers. And I think that they're not going to throw in. They're too proud. The front office, the coaching staff, everybody, they're not going to throw in the towel and be like, well, we just don't have it this year. Let's offload Debo or somebody else and try to get picks and whatever. Like, in some ways, that would probably be the smart thing to do. But um, I just don't see them doing that. I think they're like, well, we obviously need something to get us over the hump to beat the Chiefs and teams like the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
we got to get out there and start shaking every tree and bush and trying to figure out who we can bring in that's going to be an impact player for us.
I could see them buying a defensive lineman or a receiver. Obviously, this is like an insane pipe dream, but I did see rumors that Myles Garrett could potentially be available. But just throwing it out there.
Oh man, I wonder if the Lions would try and get him. Yeah, we can talk more trade deadline after next weekend because, in my opinion, but whether they're buyers or sellers is going to come up to what happens in the Cowboys game. If they lose to the Cowboys, they might be selling. Debo, Mooney, Ward, I don't know, whoever they might be selling. But if they win the Cowboy game, they go into the bye 4-4. They could be buyers.
I mean, we've already seen this movie though with this same regime. They lost on Sunday Night Football to the Colts to fall to 3-5 a couple years ago, and then they made their run and they went all the way to the NFC Championship game. So I'm saying
I've heard this argument a couple times where it's people have compared to the last couple years. That team was younger and hungry. This team feels flat and old,
all I'm
and it just
saying
feels like
is you've got the same people calling the shots that are going to be
true.
thinking this is what we've done before. We can do it again. We're not giving up. We are the Niners.
Yeah.
We should be considered a Super Bowl contender. We spent all this money. We've got to go out there and do it. I would be shocked if they ended up being sellers. Even though, like I said,
I would be
it might be
shocked.
the smart move.
I would be shocked if they were sellers as well. And I still feel like we could definitely still sneak into the playoffs and like make a run. Like I'm definitely not ready to throw in the towel. Even without you being injured, like this team, they're just, I don't know, they're just wired different. They could pull off a string of like 8 wins in a row and go into the playoffs looking like one of the best teams in the league and absolutely just destroy teams in the playoffs. So if they do go into sell mode, I'm going to be very disappointed because that's what I expect them to do, honestly. I expect them to still make the playoffs and I expect them to have a competitive playoff run. I don't know if they can win the Super Bowl if they have to play Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but I still expect them to make the playoffs and to go on a little run.
I expect them to probably win their division, but they're going to have to fight tooth and nail for it like they did in 2021. I don't even remember if they won their division that year, but the team that rips off 8 wins and gets is the hottest team in the NFL going into the playoffs. I just don't see that with this squad. This team is going to limp into the playoffs and get smoked in the first round or something.
By who? The Lions will have the first. They're gonna have a bye.
Packers
Ain't no one smoking us other than the Lions, in my opinion. We see the Vikings again.
They might have to go back to Minnesota.
And that's fine, and respect to the Vikings. Like really,
the Niners will actually play at home. If Minnesota was a wild,
you said they win the division. Yeah, you said if they win the division, that's right.
I don't think any NFC team smokes us other than the Lions. I think we could. I
say smoke them, but they're going to lose. I don't expect them to win.
Okay.
I don't expect them in the conference championship game this year.
All right,
Ryan, have you
at least not with they're going to go out and destroy the Cowboys on Sunday, and I'm going to be like Niners and Lions and everyone else. But I don't know. Right now, I don't feel like this team has that run in them.
You should. I don't know how much you've looked it up before, Ryan, but go back and look at the '88 season and see what the Niners were. I mean, it's so long ago, but that's what I'm hoping for at this point, where they just had a middling, frustrating year, barely made the playoffs, and then got hot or just did enough to get there, And so it was like it was one of their worst teams in the '80s in terms of like how they performed and how they looked in the regular season. But then they just did what they needed to. That's the one, where Joe hits John Taylor for that Super Bowl, the comeback one.
Yeah, I've thought about this too, where like in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl, they were dominant that year. Kind of came out of nowhere. The defense was amazing. They ran the ball down everyone's throat. Last year, they set like an NFL record for most wins by double digits. These teams were dominant, best team in the league, and then they go lose the Super Bowl. Kyle's finally going to win his Super Bowl when everyone's like, this 49er team is cooked. They're old, they're washed, they limped into the playoffs, and they're going to do just enough to get there and that's how they're going to win it.
That would be amazing.
That would be sweet.
I'd love it. I would
love it.
That would be.
And it might not even be the Chiefs too, but the Chiefs and the Ravens, like, I don't know if the Niners would beat the teams, even if they get there. The Ravens, this might finally be the Ravens' year.
Yeah.
Could be.
They're destroying the Bucs right now.
The best hope would be that they do that, obviously. And they haven't really shown the ability to do that. Like you said, when they're kicking butt, they're blowing teams out. When it's a close game, it gets a little dicey.
Yeah, I don't know. This team just feels a little older and a little slower. I just don't know if they have that run in them, but I hope they do. It'll start, beat the crap out of the Cowboys, rest up on the bye. But the schedule's tough after that. We can get into that on our next one.
Yeah.
But last thing, curious, Jason, what's the Chargers score? I know you got some money on it.
They just got a field goal. They're up by 2 points into the third quarter. If the game ended right now, I would take the money.
You're in the money.
So yeah, they're up 9-7 right now.
Wow. All right. Well, good luck to you. I'm going to go turn that game on. Let's call it, and we'll talk more on Friday. We'll get into the Cowboy game.
Do you feel any better?
All right.
Any therapy? Did it help or did it just make things worse?
I don't know.
I mean, the Seahawks game that we just played and the Cowboy game coming up are way more important than that Chiefs game as far as like rankings and standings. It just sucked that like if we get to the Super Bowl and it's the Chiefs again, it's like, who's going to feel good about that game? Like I wanted it to be competitive at least.
Yeah.
And it was just so gross to watch.
All right. Well,
I can sum up the Niners offense here on Sunday.
We couldn't do diddly poo offensively.
Yeah.
It's about
Indeed.
Right. All right. We'll talk to you guys on Friday.
See you guys.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.